Okay, so here's the next part. I'm redoing this part because I didn't like how I did this one. So, another thing I forgot to mention is when I was going through chemo, we had a tutor to come to help me for schoolwork because I couldn't go to school because what if the kids were sick and I couldn't get sick from all the kids, because this was when I was in 6th grade too. So the reason we had a tutor come is because just because I wasn't going to school and I was a little bit sad about not going to school because I missed seeing everybody. But the problem we had with the tutor is she either wouldn't come in because she was sick, or she kept coming in bringing colds, and she wasn't coming in because her husband was sick. It just wasn't working out, so then my mom decided to tutor me. And I really liked when she tutored me because she would start me on one subject, and once we finished that subject, we'd go on the next subject, which is really good for me because then I wouldn't have like too much to deal with. So I have this habit of once I start something, I will keep going until I finish it. And I really, really like that habit. It's one of my favorite habits. And my favorite subject in the subject she was tutoring me, my mom was tutoring me on, was health, because it would just because it was so interesting to me. Like, I learned about stuff like pregnancy, foods that we eat. It just really interested me during chemo. Just with all like the foods, learning about our health and what's in our bodies. It just really interested me because I guess it's all the chemo I've been going through. And stuff. And then once we finished health, we'd start on like, I think, language arts, and then we had like, what's another one? I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fade. We had health, language arts, and we did history. And I watched like we did like history and everything. So my mom was really great tutoring me, and she's really good at teaching. Yeah, she's really good at teaching. Like, whenever I was confused, she'd always like help me with something, like especially on my homework. I'd ask her what to do and stuff. I'm like, I'm completely confused, so she'd show me like what to do and explain how to do it in an easy way so I'd understand. And for those who don't know, I have a learning disability, so I have to have certain things explained in a different way so then I understand them clearly. Like, for instance, if you say like this and this, I think it's like another language, like this certain thing, oh, blah, 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 and I'm like, huh? So I have to have it explained clearly in a different way so then I understand what's going on. And that was really good for me, and I like that my mom tutored me because it just really helped me a lot when I was going through chemo. And the only days we would work were days I was feeling better, and days I wasn't feeling better, I would get the day off. And I was like so sad, like I couldn't go to school and see my friends. And then suddenly I know how my sister feels when we pulled her out of school. It just made me feel bad and everything. Because she didn't get to see any of her friends, and like half the time she'd want to hang out with my friend, and she will, half the time she'd want to hang out with my friend, and I sometimes didn't like that, but I felt really bad for her because she couldn't see any of her friends. And it was just really sad. And now I'm just going to skip to the next part, like when I finish my chemo, because this video is getting really long, and I'm sorry if this part's kind of boring and doesn't make sense, but I'm skipping to this part because this video is like already getting really long. So on May 19th of 2005, we have a part, I'm celebrating at the hospital with with all the nurses. Because they're happy that I made it through chemo. And I remember we had like cake and stuff, and they were all like so happy that I made it through chemo, and it was my final treatment, and I was so happy to be done. I was miserable through chemo, and my uncle was too. too. And for those who don't know, my uncle was a victim of chemo. He had lymphomaplasty. So when I was going through chemo, I was asking him questions about his chemo. And during the last treatment, which stinks, is I was getting a little warm because the second dose of methotrexate I would get fevers and stuff. And during my fevers, they'd have to poke me with an IV. And I hated the IV in my hand. They'd have to draw blood from me whenever I got a fever, and I really hated it. But I don't know why, but I was used to my stepdad giving me vaccines in my arm. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention about the vaccines, sorry. When my counts were low during chemo, my stepdad would have to give me vaccines in my arm just to bring up my counts. And I didn't mind those so much. And during my last treatment, I was worried about getting a fever, and I was like freaking out. So during my fevers, I couldn't cry because the crying would bring up my fevers more. I remember the nurses told me something about that. And hold on a minute. Yeah, and at the same time, what sucked was at the same time I was finishing my last treatment, my uncle ended up in the hospital because he had some breathing issues. And then, it's another one. I'm sorry. Sorry it's taking me so long. I'm trying to find the page. So, and then on my last treatment, and they do another blood draw, and one of the doctors who was in the room when I was a baby, when I was born, and he notices we're still at the hospital as we're waiting for the methotrexate. No, not the methotrexate. Then, yes, and they're doing another, and they want to do another blood draw, but this doctor who is in, the hospital from when I was a baby. I was born when I was in the hospital from when I was a baby, says let's send him home with 2 more doses of black and sodium, and my mom and I were so happy, and we start crying because we're like so happy that I made it through, and that's the story. Okay, so that's the story of how I went through chemo. I'm really sorry that this video was really long. But before I end this video, I have a list of people I want to thank. And let me get the list. I really want to thank my mom because she was really good, supportive of me going through chemo. And I want to, because she did all my medicine, she stayed with me in the hospital, she sit and hang out with me, she made sure I ate stuff, and she made sure I was doing well. She'd wake up and check me every night, especially when I had fevers. And then the next person I want to thank is my dad because he'd stay in the hospital and hang out with me sometimes. Like he'd switch off with my mom so she'd go home and he'd spend time with me. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for that. I want to thank my stepdad because he did a really good job taking care of my Broviac. I did not get an infection at all from my chemo and my Broviac because of him. He was so wonderful. He cleaned it. He made sure I got my medicines through it. And he just did a really good job taking care of me. So thank you to my stepdad for that. I really want to thank my Uncle Pete, even though he is no longer with us anymore, because when I was going through chemo, I was asking him about questions about his chemo, because he went through chemo as well. He had lymphomoblastic. He didn't pass away from lymphomoblastic, like I said before. He had a brain tumor, and he passed away of a brain tumor. He was such a wonderful person. He helped me go through chemo as he was telling me about his chemo. I want to thank my aunt as well because she was really supportive from when I went through chemo too. She'd come and visit me in the hospital, and she'd come and visit me in the hospital, and she'd talk to me and she'd hang out with me. So thank you to my aunt, and this is my mom's sister. I want to thank my mom's friend because he was really wonderful when I went through chemo too, because he was very supportive. He did an awesome job coming with us to my doxorubin, which were my clinic treatments, where I'd sit and watch movies, and he'd hang out and watch movies with me. So thank you to my mom's friend because he was really supportive of me going through chemo. I want to thank my brother because he was also a good support for me. He was like making sure I was okay. He called me on the phone sometimes and check up on me. And he was really great when I was getting my surgery. He was a very sweet brother. Thank you to my brother. I also want to thank my little sister because she was also really supportive. I love how she'd come to the hospital with my mom, and then she'd invite the nurses over for sleepovers, and then she'd come and hang out with me. So thank you to my sister. I also want to thank all my cousins because they were great too, because they were very supportive of me going through chemo, and they were just very thoughtful, asking me how I've been and hanging out with me. So thank you to all my cousins for that. I want to thank my uncle, my mom's brother, because he was also supportive when I went through chemo. He'd come and stay with me, and he'd hang out with me and make me laugh. He always makes me laugh. And then I want to thank my aunt, my dad's sister, because she would come and visit me in the hospital and see how I was doing. And she'd bring my grandpa too. And I also want to thank my grandpa because he was like really supportive of me going through chemo. I want to thank all the nurses and staff because they were so social with me and they were really nice. They did an awesome job making sure I was okay, even though some of them did wake me up, but that was only an accident. But they were all super nice. They did a great job taking care of me. And I also want to thank all the doctors because they were wonderful too. I give them a thumbs up because they did an awesome job making sure I went through chemo right. And then last person I want to thank is my surgeon because he did a wonderful job taking care of my knee, like giving me my biopsy and my knee surgery, and he did a wonderful job. So that was the story of how I went through chemo. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and this video is getting really long, so I'm going to have to go now. Bye!